Hi guys. As we begin our semester in the study of Christian Catholic morality, I'd like to take a step back and set our study in a larger context, and that is the context of ethics. When we use the term morality, oftentimes people will use both of those terms interchangeably, or synonymously, ethics and morality. But for our purposes, we're going to look at morality as having some specific religious perspective or religious content, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And ethics can describe a broader field that isn't dependent upon religious revelation or religious insight, but is really all people can do it. It's dependent upon rationality and the ability to think and reflect. And so we're going to try to position our study in this broader, more universal context of ethics. To help us do this, I've come across a website from Santa Clara University, which is a Jesuit university, but is studying the philosophical field of ethics. And their website, the Markula Center for Applied Ethics, I think is an excellent resource for giving you a taste of how broad and how deep the field of ethical reflection, ethical decision-making is. This is a portal page for that website, and you can get some sense of the various topics and the various resources this Markula Center for Applied Ethics has. And so what I would like you to do over the course of the next 2 nights is to get in and to explore this website, explore it, feel free to go widely on it and explore the different parts of it. But I'm going to point out a couple of specific websites on ethical decision-making and case studies. And I want you to explore these and eventually, by the second night, choose a case study and apply the framework of ethical decision-making that they recommend to that case study of your choice. This assignment is an old assignment that I have posted here, and I will be updating it, but many of the particular websites are still the same. So you'll see here is So over the next 2 nights, I'd like you to go on this website. You see it right here. And when you get on that website, take some time and explore it. Look at the various sites: bioethics and healthcare, business ethics, government ethics, character education. And understand how this ethical thinking can happen. Secondly, you're going to go to a site that features a number of case studies, and you're going to read one of those select one of those case studies, and search among hundreds of case studies that they have on the site. Choose one that's of interest to you, and then ethically analyze it. One of the articles that you'll be reading, and I have a website there, it provides the framework for ethical decision-making, and I'll give you that on a PDF as well. This is one slide that shows you the different focus areas that are available on this website. This page is an excellent example of many articles, kind of background articles that you can explore. I'm most interested in this article here, Ethical Decision Making, and we'll talk more about it there. But you'll see all along here there are a series of hot links bringing you to articles that will provide you much more in-depth information on any of these topics. I encourage you to explore them at your interest. This page is the beginning of the article, A Framework for Ethical Thinking, or Thinking Ethically, that I would like everybody to read because it is so foundational. It provides a nice description of what ethics is, how we can understand ethics. Earlier I had made the distinction between ethics and morality. Everybody can do ethics. Everybody can take their experience, apply some rational, reasonable reflection upon it, and come up with a decision of what they ought to do. Some people can apply religious revelation, insight, context to that same enterprise, and that's what we call morality. But once again, we're going to be focusing upon ethics, philosophical ethics. And this article continues by taking an approach sometimes called the via negativa, that is the negative approach of ruling out what ethics is not. And there's a lot of popular understandings of ethics that have a kernel of truth, but it neglects the broader context of what ethics is. And so these are some popular understandings which are not exactly accurate. Ethics is not just feelings. While feelings are important, they can lead us astray, and this is a very popular misunderstanding. We reduce ethics just to feelings. Ethics is not religion. Not all people are religious. Not all people have the benefit of faith or the ability to have an understanding of religious revelation, but they can be ethical. Ethics applies to all human beings. Ethics should not be conflated with the law. Not all laws are ethical. There are bad, unjust laws, and if we just have to look back in history to see that. Also, similarly, it's not following culturally acceptable norms. There's interchange, and I have a drawing on the right hand that shows how they intersect between those various understandings. Finally, ethics is not science, and in fact, the whole field of bioethics explores how science needs to ask some ethical questions. Just because we can do something doesn't necessarily mean that we should do it. This article on the framework for ethical decision-making continues, and I'm going to make some highlight comments on this, but I'd encourage you to read it carefully. It says that, how do we base our ethical standards? What do we base them on? And how do we then apply them to a situation? These are not questions that everybody agrees upon, but we can discuss them, obviously. Over the years, there have been kind of 5 schools of ethical thinking that are described here. The utilitarian approach and the rights approach are mentioned on this page. The utilitarian approach, sometimes called pragmatism, is very popular and very common in the Western world, especially in America. It traces its origins back to Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mills, and it's one that you will, I think, find very attractive because it tends to measure things by their consequences. The rights approach tends to be a little more philosophical. People like Immanuel Kant would be associated with that. And it talks about the universality of principles and human rights. There's a little cartoon on the right-hand side there in which Calvin tries to exempt himself from some of those, and some amusing reflections on that. The article goes on to describe some other schools of thought: the fairness or justice approach, to give to each person his due, and the common good approach. How does this action benefit everybody? The final school of thought, the virtue approach, is one that I have to confess is the one that I find most compelling and the most compatible with morality. It basically asks, what kind of person do I want to become? And does this action reflect the kind of person that I want to be? Things like integrity are important concepts here. Is this action consistent with me acting at my best? Identifying these schools of thought may give you the impression that ethical decision-making is easy or some kind of mathematical formula. This is far from the case. Frequently you will have competing analyses or competing visions of what is the best thing to do, and that's why we have to sort this through in our own minds and our own hearts and make a decision, take action upon it, and then look back and evaluate it and see what we've done and whether it's been good and learn from that. This article continues by laying out a outline, a framework for making a decision. The first one, of course, is identifying what the ethical issue is. Deciding whether you want chocolate or vanilla ice cream does not rise to the occasion or level of an ethical decision. The next thing that's very important is that we have to ask the what question. What are we dealing with? What are the facts? We have to do some research. We have to do some study. And frequently there will be articles we'll see that will give you some background information on these various case studies. A big part is generating alternatives. What alternatives do I have in the face of this dilemma? And then we need to evaluate those various alternatives. And here's where the 5 schools of ethical reasoning can come in and help us in the evaluation of that. Finally, we have to make a decision. And when we make that decision, it's tentative at first, and we can ask ourselves, is this something that I'm proud of? Is this something that I'd be willing to state publicly and defend? If it's not, that's probably not a good sign. We need to then act upon our decision. We need to carry it out. And then we need to look back and evaluate it and see if this was, in fact, the best way to go. The second part of this assignment is going to ask you to look at various cases on this site and to select one that's of personal interest to you. This is the landing page of all the cases, and you can see that it starts to list some, but there are literally hundreds of them, and it might be better for you to select a sorting mechanism to see which ones you're most interested in. This page illustrates the sorting categories here, and you can press on any one of those and then hit the list and segregate the topics that way. I want to give you a couple of examples of various case studies and show you what can happen or what's possible. And by the way, by using these as example, I'm making these ineligible, so you can't choose these. You need to choose another example. But this first one is on how we use words and our choice of words. Can words hurt us? And is the use of words an ethical decision? You'll see down here on the bottom there are some resources, and this one resource from Huffington Post is some good background information about a campaign at Duke University on the use of words. So I'd really encourage you to do some research in the selection of your case and read some of those articles below. This is another case, an example of academic performance enhancement, whether the use of Adderall is a legitimate means of studying or whether it's a form of cheating. Of course, this is Adderall that's not prescribed to you. So you see there's a number of helpful articles on the bottom here that deal with this. Test Prep or Perp, it's an interesting one. Here's another case on cheating in school, and how widespread is it, how bad is it, what is plagiarism, what is involved with that. I've included this sign because it shows a category called the Big Q. And these topics here, you can click on any one of them and there'll be 6, 10 case studies within each category. They seem to be of particular interest to college students, and they may be of interest to you as well. And you can see they have a little writing contest that's involved with them as well. Here's another case, and you can see the resources below. Some of the resources include videos, and this video in particular, Sex and the Soul, is very well done. It's a long one, it's about 40 minutes, but it's very interesting and very well done if you want to get into it in depth. Okay, I think that's enough. Hopefully this will give you a taste of what's involved with ethics from a purely philosophical point of view, how broad and how deep the field is, and how there aren't simple answers. And in fact, as we see from Calvin and Hobbes, he's a little resentful how complicating this enterprise can be. But I look forward to our spending time together exploring what I consider to be a very exciting field of ethics and morality.